Welcome to the Divorce Allies podcast, a podcast and video series where we dive into all things divorce, the process of creating a settlement offer with a team of financial professionals, divorce mortgage planning specialists, parenting, and relationship coaches. We cover all the areas of the divorce settlement process, from financial to emotional well-being. I'm Anna Graham, the team's small business mentor, and today I'm with Cristin Terri, our divorce coach and parenting specialist. So for this episode, I'm going to be going through a list of questions that Kristen receives a lot. And we decided to record this because she's getting these questions on a weekly, monthly basis. And we thought it would be a really good idea to just give you almost like a FAQ session where we're not really rapid fire, but in a sense, rapid firing Kristen these questions because people need to understand this information and understand how to work through a lot of these co-parenting and custody situations on their own. So, Kristen, first off, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Anna. What a great introduction.
I know. We're just going to get to the point because honestly, like we were having a conversation before this previously, people keep coming to you and we're going to get to it that the system isn't great. And when the system cannot provide, you have to provide for yourself. So I think let's just get into the very first question, which is, what do you see as the biggest mistake parents make in a custody battle?
Yeah, this question, people are fearful to make mistakes. And one of the biggest mistakes I see is when parents let their personal hurt cloud their judgment of the other parent's ability to show up for their child. So they're angry, and rightfully so. But instead of separating these emotions, they project them into their parenting decisions.
Mm,
And here's the truth, like, making child-centered decisions often feels like another sacrifice. Like, I know what this feels like in a time when you're already grieving the life you had. Um, you're just sacrificing so many things. So sometimes it's hard and people want to be selfish, but your child only gets one childhood. They don't get to rehab this childhood. You get to reinvent yourself right now. They don't get that. So they
mm,
also didn't choose this. And they also don't yet have the emotional capacity to understand everything that's going on. That's why sometimes I'm hard with my clients and I say, you have to be the adult in this situation. You have to teach yourself to pause. You have to teach yourself to process and choose their peace over your emotions, your pride, your ego, your control, whatever it is. You need to train your mind to focus on what's best for your kids. So yeah,
absolutely.
emotions.
Mm-hmm,
Emotions is
mm-hmm,
the big one.
mm-hmm. And how hard is it when it's not just your emotions that you're processing, but also then you have your spouse or ex-spouse that are bringing on more conflict, and then there's like the additional emotions. It's very complex. But then when you're going through custody, all of this decision, you have to make a parenting plan. So, in your view, what makes a great parenting plan? Because we know that there are templates. Every state, if you're in the United States, like where I'm from, every state has their own template. In South Africa,
Yeah.
where you're from, I'm sure South Africa has their own version. But we know that those templates don't serve us very well. So, in your opinion, what makes a great parenting plan?
I hear this often of clients going to attorneys. The attorneys give them the parenting template that they use and just tell the clients, well, write down what you want. And parents are like, well, I've never been divorced. I've never had to consider my whole child's every decision for the rest of their lives right now on a piece of paper. I don't even know what to ask. I don't even know what to think. So,
Right.
um, firstly, let's be real. No co-parenting setup is ever going to be perfect, and no parenting plan is going to be perfect. But so don't let Instagram fool you, please, or social media. It's never going to be perfect. And a solid parenting plan is not there for the good times. If you and your ex-spouse are co-parenting really well straight from the get-go, well done, like amazing. But a parenting plan is your lifeline when things get messy. When a new partner enters the picture, when someone finds out a lie that was told 10 years ago or 5 years ago, when the unexpected happens, that is where you need your parenting plan. A good plan is like having a co-parenting safety net almost. It keeps things stable,
Yeah.
gives you both a roadmap, and one that also keeps your kids' safety and emotional well-being at the forefront. And it may take some time in the beginning to sit down together and go through each and every aspect that you want covered, but then it's done. You've done the hard part, but it's so worth it. So it can help reduce a lot of stress for parents, for children, just to set that foundation and that groundwork.
And someone who works not with Kristen in this capacity, but on a team capacity, Kristen really knows so many specifics of what to consider with this parenting plan. Because, like you're saying, it should be your safety net, but there's so many little pieces, ties of that safety net that you don't even think about until you have someone like Kristen working with you. Like, for instance, ear piercing, tattoos. I mean, like, some of these things are legal in a sense, but you don't think about it until your teenager presents you with these decisions. And then it's like, well, I didn't think about that when my child was 4 years old. So having someone like Kristen that can walk you through every developmental stage, some of these questions that will come up, some of these instances that will happen is honestly crucial when you're going through this.
Yeah.
But transitioning to the next, so typically when we talk about custody, there's the generic, well, I want 50-50 custody. That's that. That's what my friend, my sister did, whoever, they got 50-50. So let's go with that. But then there are also like 70-30, 80-20, weekends, weeks, whatever it might be. But why don't you recommend starting with a 50-50 or 70-30 schedule in mind?
Firstly, yeah, it's an unpopular opinion. I don't think that should be the focus, because your child's life cannot be measured in percentages. It can't be measured in percentages and quantity over quality. So you're fighting for 50-50, but your capacity and your career doesn't allow for that. But because you don't want your pride or your ego or anyone else, oh, you didn't get 50-50. It's almost like a show thing. Like, people need to feel like, I'm a valued parent because I got split custody. But that's not what's necessarily the focus and what's going to make your child's life better through this divorce. So when parents fixate on the numbers, they often stop thinking logically and start clinging to control. And that only can lead to resentment and tension, less flexibility. And custody should be about what works right now and what can evolve. Maybe one parent has you're getting divorced with an infant breastfeeding. I was pregnant, and 70-30 makes sense right now because of your child's needs. But that won't be the case forever. Maybe that baby is a boy and he hits 14 and he wants more time with dad. You don't know what it's going to evolve. So don't be so rigid in your thinking, and don't focus on the how 50-50, 70-30, 60-80, or 60-40, whatever it is. Focus on what is logical, what is going to give stability, what makes sense for your family. It's just not logical to me to consider your child's life in a 70-30, 50-50 capacity.
And we always tell our members too, like 50-50 is such kind of the buzzword, keyword, or divorce has so many like terms around it that people are only familiar with through their friends or families or TV shows or movies. So they get hung up on those things. But we always tell our members, start with like just a blank slate. Like, stop bringing on all of these outside perspectives and outside opinions and what you think you should have to do. What is specific about your case and your children specifically? But if we go into 50-50 and if they decide that that is what is best for their children, what does 50-50 actually look like? And how does that vary based on state, age, or even family structure?
Yeah, this is a great question. And it really, one size does not fit all when it comes to custody, when it comes to your family, when it comes to your kids. One family may have a neurodivergent child, and 50-50 to that child may mean longer stretches throughout the school term with one parent, and then vacations with the other parent. Or maybe you have 5-5-2-2. So it's 5 days with one parent, 5 days with another parent. There's so many different structures of how it can look, and you just need to think outside the box. But if you've never been divorced or had to draw up a parenting plan or consider splitting your child's life, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know what to ask and what options may lay ahead of you. Generally, we want you to lean towards 50-50. It is better for children if there are two willing, loving parents. Yes, that's what we want. If your schedules align for it, then that's what you want. But that may change over time as your children decide. Maybe they get older, they also want to have an opinion. So there's so many different aspects, and it can look very differently. Like 1 week on, 1 week off. If that's too long, you can have a midweek lunch or dinner with your kids. Or there's different ways that you can structure this that work for your family. You don't need to follow a mold.
And speaking of molds and templated things, it's so funny to me that still to this day, there are just generic templates depending on where you're located. It's like as if every family just has a boy and a girl who are 2 years different and everything's the exact same cookie cutter type life. But I mean, I mentioned kind of in the intro before we got into these questions, the issue is the parenting plan template. And you've talked about it, we talk about it all the time, but why are they part of the problem? Can you just explain? I mean, we know that at a generic level, they're an issue, but maybe can you go a little bit deeper?
Yeah, they don't ask the deep, specific questions. They don't account for infants who still need bottles, or teens with curfews, or neurodivergent children. They don't count for if there's long distance co-parenting. They don't count for any of these things. They really do just do the exact kind of same mold and suggestions, and there's no options in there. So yeah, I've created a two different processes: a DIY process where I have developed, and I get so excited because my questionnaire is developing over the years as I've been doing this. And, it's a Google Forms, there's like 74 questions, and it's to prompt you to ask the right questions in developing throughout your child's life and co-parenting, and what that may look like and what your vision is. And I get both parents to fill that out. So you can immediately find a beautiful middle ground, what the things that work. And you can then see where are the issues that we need to find options for. You need to negotiate, compromise. So it doesn't necessarily work that well. The legal system, they are legal experts, and they are fantastic at knowing the legal terms and the legal stuff, but they're not parenting specialists, and they don't know what's best for your family, and they're a little bit out of their depth. So I think that's why they just give templates. It's not what they want to be doing. They don't want to be figuring out whether Johnny and Susie's clothes came back yesterday. Whereas for you, that's a huge difference, right? Like
Yeah.
the clothes aren't coming back. You want all of these small, finer details in. And when you don't have a full parenting plan with details that protect you, even in a high conflict situation, if you leave any loopholes, you're going to be back in the legal system every year. Who does that benefit? That benefits the person you've got to
Lawyer.
pay to get back into the legal system, right?
Right.
So it's not in their interest really to help you really understand what your options are. They're going to tell me what you want, I'll fight for it. That's their job. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and so you just mentioned in the presence of a high conflict or potentially toxic relationship, what does a parenting plan need to consider in a high conflict or parallel parenting situations? Maybe first, could you address what parallel parenting is and then kind of go into the full question?
Yeah, sure. Parallel parenting is one of those parenting styles, co-parenting styles that you want to use in a high conflict situation. This is where as much structure as possible and minimizing interaction is the name of the game, basically. And the only way to make that work is a highly detailed parenting plan. So this could look like changeovers. No one sees each other. Changeovers. One parent drops off on a Tuesday at school. The other parent picks up on the Tuesday after school. Parents are not seeing each other. There may be what one parent is doing at their home has got nothing to do with the other parent. So
Yeah.
they are not getting involved in each other's lives. They are basically parallel parenting. I think it's a great description of what it is.
Yeah.
Co-parenting is way more enmeshed. Yeah, I'm talking about everything from for a highly detailed parenting plan. It goes from feeding schedules to transport logistics to college plans and emergency scenarios. I have yet to date to see a parenting plan that actually also includes like, what if one parent passes away? Sure, you may have a will, but an actual parenting plan, or what if one parent is in an accident in a wheelchair now? And their capability to look after the child is, we don't want to think worst case scenarios, but sometimes we do need to think about these things. And like I said, I've yet to see a parenting plan that actually includes these things. Because if you don't cover these details up front, like I mentioned earlier, you'll end up in court. And guess who wins that case? The legal system, right? They win. It's not you. You didn't come up with that plan. You're asking a judge to make a decision on your children's lives.
Yeah, and we know, and if anyone listening can relate, that if you have a high conflict spouse, they will find any gap, any loophole, and they will work that just so they can get under your skin. Like, for instance, we had someone that in the parenting plan, she had to drop off the kid outside of the house, but then she pulled into the driveway, and then the spouse declared, well, you went against the parenting. Like, it's just, you don't think that they're going to be this bad until they are. And then it's at that
Yeah.
point, again, you're back in court. So again, it's just the details and finding someone like Kristen who can read through it and say, okay, you have a gap here. Let's address that. Let's add something in. Because
Yeah.
again, okay, more legal fees or just more headache. and no one
Yeah,
wants that.
you need to be clear. If drop-offs are at 6 p.m., be in the parenting plan, give a buffer time, 15 minutes before that's in. Put flexibility in there because you never know when you're going to need it. But there's ways to put all of this stuff in that is going to safeguard you in the long run and your kids and minimize the conflict your kids have to be exposed to. Because I know I'll say this like a broken record. It is not divorce that negatively impacts the kids. It is conflict. It's the conflict, and how parents manage it is going to determine how your child, what's the word I'm looking for? Like how your child is going to react and what they're going to take from this in their future.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for instance, if someone's watching this or comes to you and they already have a parenting plan created, maybe it's already post-divorce or they've already started to draft something up and they're realizing, I need to revise this. Can a parenting plan be changed over time? And what should parents know about that?
Yeah, so most definitely, in fact, it is encouraged for it to do a 5-year review or a 3-year review, or at certain age intervals to do a review. And if both parents agree, you can revise your plan and formalize it through mediation. With the Divorce Allies, we are always talking about mediation, and it's a wonderful tool if you know how to use it. It's much less stressful, more cost-effective option than battling it out in court. And the key thing that people need to know about this, or parents should know about this, is the key is open communication and having the right structure in place to guide those changes. Something a custom, well thought out plan in the beginning provides, but don't let your current plan be a deterrent to actually go and change it. It's not that hard if you have two willing parents. But if you're at the start of drawing it up, try and get it right the first time because it will help immensely.
Yeah. And how freeing is it that it can be edited and changed, especially in mediation? Because the idea that it's stuck for years, for 17, 16, 10, even 5 years, like that is a daunting amount of time to think that I have to stick with this. But yes, it can be changed. And again, working with someone like Kristen makes the process a lot smoother the second or third time around.
And look, like a parenting plan is also only as good as the parents want to abide by it. It's not in stone, right? Like, and for many people, they don't want to hear that, because it does mean that this is a long journey with a particular, especially in high conflict situations. I'm not talking about abusive situations. There may be a completely different route for that. But when it's just a difficult co-parent who just wants to make life difficult, unfortunately, if that is their goal, you can safeguard yourself as much as possible, but you're still it's not in stone.
Yeah.
You're still going to have those little annoyances, especially someone you were married to. They know exactly what buttons to push.
Sure do.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you have a parenting plan, or when you're starting to build this comprehensive parenting plan, what is something that most people overlook?
Most people either just take the attorney's template, or they Google and try and patch something together. But it goes way past just the custody schedules, right? You've got
Mhm.
decision making. Do both parents have mutual decision making, or does one parent want to take over medical decision making and one parent educational decision making? Um, Conflict resolution methods. When conflict arises, how are you going to handle it? That is super important to put in a parenting plan. How are you going to handle when conflict arises? Because it is going to arise. And you need to have a process that you both agree to. Communication rules, communication between parents, communication between kids when they're with the other parent, monitoring social media, cell phone usage, travel and holiday plans. Some parents won't allow the kids to travel out of state or even out of country until a certain age. What are your boundaries around that? What do you agree as parents that you're comfortable with? Introduction of new partners. This often gets overlooked as well. How do you want to handle that introduction? When does that introduction happen? What are the guidelines around that? And emergencies. What happens in emergencies? I recently had a case as well where um, the child is a daughter, and the mom wanted to make sure that she could have the conversations around contraception when her daughter reached that age, and puberty, and she wanted to make sure that that was in alignment. You put those things in. There's not really, like I said, there's not really a limit what you can put in your parenting plan. Most of my clients have a fear of what they're not putting in and the things that they're forgetting about. Um, and you can put as much as you want into that parenting plan, um, as much as you possibly can. Both agree, put it down while you're amicable. Put it down.
Mhm. And I'm just asking off the top of my head, do you think there's ever a moment where you're telling your clients, okay, that's too much. Like you're thinking way too much, you're thinking way too nitty-gritty. Now you're just kind of overdoing it?
Yeah, definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Especially when, like, an example, you know, for example, the travel of items back and forth, how to
Mhm.
manage that. And yes, making sure that the items come back. But if it's just school uniform, like, don't worry about it. If the school changeovers are happening on a Wednesday, your child goes to
Yeah.
school and they come home in a uniform. So you'll always change. So yes, it's sometimes I just end up explaining to them how to view it, and we don't
Mhm.
put it in the parenting plan, but both parents can kind of be like, okay, yeah, that is maybe just a little bit too much. We're going to give each other grace in that.
Yeah.
So it is, yeah, I definitely see situations like that where I kind of maybe just challenge their thinking, and purely by doing that, they kind of soften a little bit into making a decision. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And everything's subjective, right? So it depends on the
Yeah.
certain situation and what seems to be most relevant in that case.
Yeah, definitely.
So, as a final question, which I think is probably the most important one, is so, Kristen, not only you are a parenting coach and a divorce coach, but you're also a meditation teacher, and you focus a lot on rewiring mindset around parenting and co-parenting in general. What does that process actually look like? And can you talk to our audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I sometimes hear the most is, I wish I let go of the what ifs sooner. There's a process post divorce that you go through, especially if you've been married for 10, 20, 30 years. You didn't just consider yourself, you were actually thinking for someone else. So there's a definite letting go phase that you really need to actively rewire your thoughts. And it's a process and it takes time. You need to catch yourself in these thoughts of, what if I didn't say that? Or what if I didn't do this? It doesn't help. We can't control the past, right? We cannot change the past. We can't control the future. So, really learning that skill for me was firstly meditation, and that looks different for everyone. You can do a spiritual meditation, a religious meditation, but the idea is to focus, teach your mind to focus on the thoughts that are not serving you, rewiring your thoughts, taking control of your thoughts, because it's very easy post divorce to get stuck in all those old ways of thinking. You need to be able to catch yourself doing it. So an awareness, rewiring your mindset starts with an awareness of your thoughts. It's very simple of just sit and listen to, see what's going on. See what's going on. I went into complete isolation, and yeah, at first I let my mind go wild, and then I started practicing with one little thing at a time. I remember early on, I still worried about him, about my ex-husband. I was like, oh, is he okay? I wonder how he's doing. And that was one of the things I had to be like, he is not my responsibility anymore. I do not need to worry about him. And it's a very simple thing, but I had to repeat that to myself every time I felt that thought come up of, oh, I wonder. I had to be like, no, he is not my responsibility anymore. And it's thousands of those little moments. It's thousands of those little thoughts. It's not one, and it doesn't. I always liken it to carrying a whole bunch of grocery bags in from the car. I'm that person. I will not do 5 trips. I will carry as much as I can.
You'll have it on your
But when
head,
I
10 bags in your arms.
yeah, and it's heavy. It's so heavy and it's cutting through my hands. And when I get to the kitchen, I just want to drop everything, but I can't because there's glass in some, there's eggs in the other, there's bread in the other. So I have to let things go one by one. As heavy as it is, as painful as it is, I have to put them down one by one.
Yeah.
And that is what this is like. You let it go one by one. You're not going to feel great. You're not going to rewire your mindset in one day. Gosh, it's taken me 5 years. 5 years that I
And it's
think
still a journey, right? Like, it's not like 5
still
years,
a
I'm
journey.
done. Yeah. Yeah.
It's still a journey, and they will always, regardless of where you are right now, how you feel about your ex-spouse, they are the mother or father to your children. And that carries weight. In my heart it does, and I'm sure in many of our lives it does carry a lot of weight. So it doesn't just go away. It doesn't just
Yeah.
drop off the face of the earth. It's not a switch that goes off. So I want to encourage people, if you feel like you're still in the thick of it, I felt that. I felt like, oh my gosh, when am I going to stop with that thought? Okay, that's a new thought to challenge. Okay, that's a new thought to challenge. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
Well, Kristen, this has been so beneficial, and I know we went through tons of questions in this, but if you're listening and you have additional questions, you want additional help, please reach out to Kristen. We are 2 team members of the Divorce Allies, which are a group of women experts, divorce experts that help all of our members through live sessions and additional coaching, and to get you through divorce in a more holistic way and empowering way. But Kristen, would you please tell us a little bit more about Gracefully Untangled and your personal brand in case people want to reach out for specific parenting issues?
Yeah, for sure. So, Gracefully Untangled for me started after I got divorced. I started with meditation teaching, then dove into mindset, then dove into divorce coaching, and currently studying to be a mediator. So, hopefully, in the next 2 months, I'll actually be able to help parents mediate their custody cases as well, very specific to the kids. But gracefully untangled is exactly that. It's gracefully untangling from that person that you were so entangled with. It's gracefully untangling your mind. And for me, the biggest change was challenging my mind, and the biggest healing was my thought process. And I currently help parents navigate the custody, the co parenting, the parenting plans. I have DIY kits, custom parenting plans where you work with me, coaching sessions, considering starting a group up as well, just for parents struggling with the emotions around adjusting to a single parent life or co parenting life. I just see Gracefully Untangled as a safe space for parents navigating divorce and wanting to do it right and put in the work, not to damage their children, because we all have that thought that this is going to damage my children. So I really want to give parents that space in and the tools how to best support their children and how to come out on top of this journey.
Yeah, amazing. And here listed at the bottom, I have Kristen's website, which is KristenTerri.com. If you're listening, it's KristinTerri.com. And then her Instagram is gracefully.untangled. So she has some awesome content. I highly recommend going to her channel, consuming, and reaching out. So, Kristen, again, thank you so much for today. If you're listening, visit divorceallies.com or KristenTerri.com and just consume all the information you can. We really, really, really want to help people as much as we can with free information, free downloads. And of course, any questions, please reach out. We are happy to help. All
I
right,
need to
Kristen.
add, I also
Yeah,
have the gracefullyuntangled.com. They both link. So if they want to
perfect.
use
Thank
Cristin
you.
Terri or Gracefully Untangled, they're linked. My name, my business. So yeah,
They're going to the
if
same
it's
place.
easier to those listening.
Yeah. All right, Kristen. See you later. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.